Hello, friends, and let's get started.
My name is Eric. I'm 38 years old, and I live in Illinois, just outside of Chicago. By the time I was 40, I had accumulated a lifetime's worth of life lessons, but I never imagined that the most painful of them was waiting for me at the most unexpected moment. Until recently, I consider myself a happy man with a loving wife, a house in a quiet neighborhood with a neat lawn, and a habit of starting my day with a jog. But here's the interesting thing. Sometimes everything looks perfect on the outside, but deep down, alarm bells are already ringing. It started with our 8th wedding anniversary. It's not a big deal, but it's always meant something special to me. I am a pedantic person by nature. If we have been married for 8 years, then on this evening, I want to emphasize that I still love her as much as on the first day. These symbolic moments are important to me. My wife, Jessica, usually didn't forget these dates either. But this time she suddenly took the whole organization into her own hands, saying, "I want to surprise you." Her voice sounded very confident, and I couldn't help but smile. On the day of the anniversary, I got home from work a little early. Already from the doorstep, I could smell the warm scent of candles. Light floral notes mixed with the smell of spices. Someone had put a small table in the living room. A plate of strawberries, a bottle of champagne, and 2 glasses. Jessica herself was wearing a red wine-colored dress, and she had bright lipstick on her lips. I hadn't seen her like that in a long time. She seemed to be smiling, but I also noticed some tension in her gaze. It was as if she'd rehearsed every word beforehand. When I approached, she embraced me, and it was as if the embrace was also a little mechanical. Maybe I had imagined it myself. But my heart had already twitched for a split second. "Happy anniversary, honey," she said, and there was that special tone in her voice that usually comes from a person trying to hide her own inner turmoil. I smiled. "Wow, what a surprise. You even packed a table. Wow, I was counting on us going out. Why go out when you can have romance here at home?" she said, taking my hand and leading me to the couch. "Sit down, I've prepared something." I settled on the couch, and she disappeared into the bedroom for a moment, returning with a small gift box. My heart was pounding like a kid's at Christmas. I wasn't expecting some expensive gift, but the fact that she'd gone to the trouble of getting it warmed my heart. "This is for you," she said, holding out the box. "Open it." I lifted the lid and saw the white gold ring inside. It was thin, elegant, without any fancy stones, but the most curious thing was the engraving on the inside. It was engraved, "Only you, forever." I found the words very touching, almost childlike in their simplicity. "Only you, forever." A lump rose in my throat. I might have thought it might be over the top, but hell, I love her. I'm still proud that we're together, and damn it, I'm willing to wear a ring like that with pleasure. I carefully picked up the ring, slipped it on my finger. "Damn, Jessica, I have no words." "Thank you," I mumbled. "Did you have it engraved on purpose?" "Yeah, I found a good place. I've been wanting to do something personalized for you for a long time," she said, but there was a strange confusion in her eyes. I felt like she almost looked away when I looked right at her. "It's really cool, really," I continued, trying not to emphasize her strange expression. "I've never dreamed of anything like this. You surprised me." She was silent, and there was a pause in the room. And the longer the pause lasted, the louder my inner doubts sounded in my ears. It was like my subconscious was yelling, "Look at her. It's like she's on edge, like someone who's scripted to play a role." But, on the other hand, I immediately reprimanded myself. "Don't make it up. Maybe she's just excited because she's giving you a surprise." We raised our champagne glasses, clinked glasses, and she took a sip. Even in that gesture, I had a flicker of a feeling that it was all a little too fake. But then I didn't want to ruin the evening. There was only a tiny shard of doubt twisting around inside me like a splinter. I tried to switch to pleasant emotions. I told her I loved her, remembered how 8 years ago we stood at the altar, and she looked like the happiest woman in the world. She seemed to smile, hug me, kissed me, but it was all as if on autopilot. However, I stifled my anxiety. Maybe she's just stressed out at work or something. The evening went pretty smoothly, except for that weird atmosphere. She said she wanted to go to bed early, supposedly tired of preparing a surprise. When we lay down, I wanted to hug her, to kiss her. She responded to the kiss, but somehow, without much passion, as if she was fulfilling a formality. We fell asleep. Had I known then that this gift would be the first brick in building my personal hell, I might have pretended to forget the anniversary. It's been a couple days. I work in computer technology and often have the opportunity to do some of my assignments from home if there are no urgent meetings at the office. Jessica used to go to the gym in the evenings and do yoga and running on the weekends. She's in great shape, and I've always been proud of her. But suddenly her gym visits started to become more frequent. She might say, "I'm going to be late. I have an extra workout." Or, "We have a group class today." At first, I didn't see this as a problem. Sports are normal. But more and more often I noticed as she came back a little distant. She answered my questions with one-word answers. When I asked, "How was today? How's the coach?" she would suddenly get confused or change the subject abruptly, as if the topic was stressing her out. One evening, about the 4th day after my anniversary, I was sitting in my home workspace finishing up a project. She was in the living room talking to someone on the phone. "No, he doesn't know anything." Yes, of course. Only these scraps reached me." And then she noticed that I had passed by and quickly cut the conversation short. I pretended I hadn't heard, but I felt cold inside. "He doesn't know anything." That phrase instantly filled my head with the darkest speculations. True, I tried still to convince myself that it could be about anything. What if she was organizing a surprise? But that surprise had already been given, and it didn't look like she was planning anything else. The next day, when I asked how she was doing, if she was coming over late, she said, "It's fine. I might stay another 30 minutes at the gym, but don't worry about it, okay?" Her gaze became evasive, like she didn't want to look me in the eye. The anxiety inside me was building like a snowball. We used to be able to talk about everything, but now it was as if she was in the shadows whenever I asked any question. I knew that if I asked the direct question, "Are you cheating on me?" I risked ruining everything. She'd have a chance to get away with it or accuse me of jealousy. So I opted for the tactic of silent observation. For a few days, I tried to notice the little things. How she talked to someone on the phone, what text she got, what time she left the house, and what time she came back. I hated feeling like some kind of detective or suspicious person, but I couldn't shake this sticky feeling that there was something dirty here. And the most disgusting thing of all, there was a ring glistening on my finger that said, "Only you, forever," given by the person who might be betraying me. In one of her conversations on the phone that I overheard, she spoke softly but very excitedly. "No, I can't. Just give me a couple of days, you understand." I walked into the room as if by accident, and she instantly cut off her speech. "Okay, I'll call you back." And then she hung up on me. When I asked her who it was, she waved her hand. "Work? I just wanted to check something about the reports." "What kind of office asks for reports this late?" "It's after 9 o'clock. I answered, pretending to be interested. "Well, ours, it's complicated, nothing interesting." She tried to speak calmly, but she looked pathetic. "I get it. Good. My heart was getting darker and darker. However, I chose the strategy of silence. I wanted to wait for the moment when everything would be clear without double interpretations. And that moment didn't last long. About a week after the anniversary, I had a relatively free day. By lunchtime, I'd finished all my chores and decided to surprise Jessica by picking her up from the gym and then going out to dinner. I was curious. I wanted to see her trainer with my own eyes, to see the atmosphere of the gym. And honestly, I hoped inside that I'd catch myself being paranoid and it would turn out to be nothing but anxiety. I arrived at the gym around 6 in the evening. The gym was in a commercial center next to several stores. I went inside. High ceilings, glass walls, through which I could see the area with treadmills and heavy weights. At the reception desk sat the receptionist, a woman in her 30s whom I'd seen a couple times before. She smiled. "Hello, can I help you?" "Ah, yes," I smiled back. "I'm looking for my wife. She's here practicing." "Jessica?" "Oh, yeah, I think she's still in the gym," the receptionist nodded. I walked a little farther and stopped at the glass doors to wait for her in the lobby, pretending I was just bored. Just then a man in his 30s, tall, broad-shouldered, stops next to me. He has on his face the kind of face that is commonly referred to as narcissistic. I knew immediately that it could be a trainer because he had a sports uniform with the emblem of a fitness center. He was talking to someone on the phone, loudly. "Yeah, sure, I'm free after 7. "Well, not really, but I'll make an exception for you." Don't worry, we'll make it. I involuntarily paid attention to his hands. Suddenly my gaze was caught by a silver glint on his ring finger. It was a thin ring, engraved. I was paralyzed. It took me a few seconds to realize that the engraving looked frighteningly familiar. Only you. I was literally numb. No way, my mind flashed. But logic whispered that there are no coincidences. I felt my insides grow cold. It was as if my heart was beating more quietly, but at the same time, a drumbeat rumbled in my head. There were two possibilities. Either it was a strange coincidence, or it was an exact sign that he was wearing the same ring my wife had given me. I tried to breathe steady. Of course, I couldn't read the inscription that was on my finger. But only you on the same edge and the same style? What the devil? My hands trembled, but I quickly pulled myself together and pretended I was just interested in fitness. I walked up to him and smiled politely. Hi, are you a strength coach by any chance? I'm Eric. I was wondering about the programs. He got off the phone and gave me a haughty look. Yeah, I'm Chad, senior instructor. How can I help you? I'm thinking about signing up for a class. I shrugged embarrassedly and looked down at his hand. That's a cool ring you got. Where did you get it? Chad froze for a moment, but then grinned cheekily. Oh, it was a gift from a friend, he chuckled. It's nice, isn't it? I was shaking inside, but I tried not to let it show. I nodded. It's very similar to something I got a while back. Something with writing on it, too. Can I see it? Chad took the ring off and held it out as if to show off. I saw the familiar letters, stamped as if it were my own twin ring. Only you. Forever. The whole world seemed to shrink into a point. I felt my throat spasm, but squeezed out a calmness on my face, as if appreciating the design. Beautiful. Yeah, I like it, he replied in a sort of arrogant way, as if he were boasting about the ring. My mind flashed with fragments of memories. Here I'm wearing this ring at home. Here, I'm reading the engraving and thinking how touching it is. And here, the man who's probably fucking my wife is wearing an identical piece of jewelry. Delusional? Alas, more like the bitter reality. I pretended it was okay, quickly returning the ring. Cool. Okay, I'll think more about the class. Thanks. He put the ring back on and walked off toward the exercise equipment. I was left standing there, not noticing what the people around me were saying to me. My heart was pounding like I was about to snap and yell at someone. But I didn't. I needed to see Jessica, to look into her eyes. Maybe this was just a wild prank. A few minutes later, I saw her coming out of the locker room, hair a little disheveled, gym bag on her shoulder. When she saw me, she flinched, surprise, and something akin to fear flashing across her face. I walked over and put on a smile. Hey, thought I'd pick you up. Why don't we go out to dinner? Oh, hi. She glanced around the gym, as if she was afraid I'd see her coach. Well, this is unexpected. Eric, I was actually on my way home. Well, let's go. We'll grab dinner on the way. I got off early. She noticed I was tense, and her smile turned fake. Yeah, sure. Let's go. We moved toward the exit. I saw the coach this Chad throw a brief glance in our direction. His face was stony, but the corners of his lips lifted slightly, as if in mockery. I clenched my fists, but didn't say anything yet. I needed time to process everything. We went outside and got into my car. The whole time I drove her home, there was a strange silence in the cabin. Finally, when we were almost there, I asked as calmly as I could. Jessica, where did you get that engraving done for me? Maybe I want to order something there too, for a gift for my friends. She tensed up a little. At a workshop downtown. Why the sudden interest? No reason. A workshop, you say? What's the name? Golden Craft, I think. Why? She was trying to hold it together, but there was a hint of panic in her voice. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. All evening, I walked around sullen. I felt like my emotions might explode right now if she said one word wrong. But I forced myself to keep quiet, not to make a scene beforehand. I needed to gather hard facts, so I wouldn't have to hear empty excuses. The next day, I specifically found this workshop in town. It turns out that it accepts orders online. You need to send a sketch and pay, and you make a ring, engraving, anything. So I called. I said that I was interested in a recent order, perhaps I would need to make another one of the same kind, and gave an approximate date. The employee asked me for details. Last name, first name. I gave Jessica's last name. She looked it up and replied. Yes, We did have an order for 2 rings engraved. Only you. Forever. It was your wife who designed it. 2 rings? I asked, carefully hiding the tremor in my voice. Yes, there are 2 men's sizes, I think. Though one is slightly smaller than the other, but still man-sized. I barely forced myself to breathe steady. Okay, thank you. Okay. It's not just a similar ring. It's the exact same ring. And she was planning to give the other person the same touching gesture. Nausea rose to my throat. I felt mad anger, insult, pain, but I didn't want to make a scandal over the phone. I needed to wait until the moment she went to the gym to catch them together. At least now I was sure her trainer was there, and she was giving him the same, only you, forever. How ironic. That evening at home, I asked in a calm tone of voice, "When are you going to the gym?" She slid me a glance. "Tomorrow." "Why do you ask?" "I just wanted to know if I could give you a ride." "No, that's okay. I can drive myself." She said it a little more sharply than she wanted to, and then she gave me a strained smile. "I'll go in the afternoon, and you have work." I got it. All night I couldn't sleep, tossing and turning. Images flashed through my mind. Here, she was giving me a ring, looking at me with eyes full of lies. And here she was ordering a second ring for that muscular jerk with the haughty look. These thoughts were driving me crazy. I pictured how I could storm into the gym, smack that fitness king with dumbbells. But at the same time, there was still a drop of hope somewhere inside. Maybe I don't understand something completely. But logic told me that I understood everything correctly. The next day, she said she would go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the evening. I took an early day off work on various pretexts. She left in her car. I waited about 20 minutes and followed. The parking lot outside the gym was pretty empty. I parked around the corner and headed toward the building. I didn't go inside. I waited at the entrance, peering through the glass. At first, I thought about going in and catching them in the act, but I figured the guy might slip away, and I wanted to see something more obvious. About a half hour later, I noticed the 2 of them come out side by side. She was still in athletic tights and a t-shirt. He was in uniform, but no longer wearing a badge. They looked around and, seeing that there was no one else around, walked to a car parked a little ways away. He put his arm around her waist. She didn't pull away. I felt a hellish mixture of jealousy and rage shoot through me. But I kept watching, trying not to draw attention to myself. They reached the car. It was his black Mustang. He got in the driver's seat, and she got in the passenger seat. A moment later, I saw them reaching for each other and kissing. It was like they didn't care if anyone noticed. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I literally felt my fists clench by themselves. There was no doubt about it. She wasn't just keeping in shape, she was cheating on me with this smug jock. And she's giving him an identical ring. Has she thought about me? Does she even think I'm shallow? Or maybe she doesn't care anymore. I couldn't watch anymore. My heart was pounding. My mind was racing with anger. I didn't play hide and seek. I approached the car with determination. When I was a few meters away, she suddenly looked up and saw me. Her eyes rounded with horror, her mouth slightly open. The coach, noticing her reaction, turned around and saw me too, not immediately realizing what was happening. I went to the driver's door and rapped sharply on the glass with my knuckles. The sound was loud, tense. Chad looked discouraged, but tried to keep his cocky face. He lowered the glass. "Hey man, what do you want?" he said defiantly. I looked coldly first at him, then shifted my gaze to Jessica. She was pale, her eyes filled with fear. Silently, I opened the driver's side door. It was unlocked, grabbed Chad by the collar of his shirt, and yanked him out. He tried to resist, but I was furious. And when a man boils over with that kind of mixture of wounded pride and betrayal, whether you're Mr. Olympia or not, you can get it pretty hard. I slapped him on the cheekbone, and he recoiled. He cursed at me. "Are you out of your fucking mind?" he hissed, trying to steady himself. "Who the fuck do you think you are?" But I was no longer in talking mode. I heard Jessica yell something like, "Stop, stop." But I'd been patient for too long. I hit him again, aiming for his stomach. He grokked, bent over, but still made a weak attempt to push me back. I took half a step back, intercepted his arm. "Do you really think you can yak?" I hissed. Chad, apparently realizing I was seriously pissed off, backed away. His face was a mixture of fear and confusion. He thought he was the local alpha male, but my eyes, full of anger, clearly knocked him off balance. I could see in his gaze that he was trying to find the words, but he didn't know what to say. "Wear this ring," I said, nodding at the glint on his finger. "It's status appropriate. You are now officially the lover of a married woman. So mark yourself." You're insane." He let out a gasp. "Fuck you, Shut up." I cut him off, not going to listen to his excuses. "Don't you dare go near my wife. I'll make that very clear to you." I turned back to the car, where Jessica was sitting. She looked like she was going to cry with horror and shame. There was panic in her eyes. She must have realized there was nothing left to catch. It had all come to the surface. "Get out of the car," I threw in her direction. "Or you're going with him to all four corners of the world, with no chance of coming back." She didn't know where to go. I saw her literally cringe under my gaze. But she got out of the car, glancing briefly at Chad, who, holding his side, was circling me in an arc, clearly unwilling to continue the fight. "What the hell are you doing, Jessica?" I asked. "For the cheap thrill? For the adrenaline? Or is he messing with your head?" She opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say, mumbling something inaudible. "I didn't mean to. Eric, I'm sorry." "I'm sorry," I asked bitterly. "Oh no, it's over." I realized that I didn't want a scene in front of passers-by and bystanders. I'd already attracted attention. So I turned around and walked to my car. All I heard was her running after me, shouting something like, "Wait, talk to me." But I got behind the wheel and drove off, leaving her there. Let her decide how to get out of this humiliating situation. I got home and sat on the couch, holding my head. Anger, resentment, disgust, and even some sense of release were all mixed up inside. But the bottom line was clear. She had betrayed me. I remembered our wedding ring, remembered the words with which we had sworn our loyalty to each other, remembered how she had said, "Only you, forever," and at the same time handing the same ring to someone else. I shuddered. About 40 minutes passed, and I heard the front door open. Jessica walked in, eyes wet, pale. She dropped her bag on the hallway floor and rushed over to me. "Eric, please listen to me. It was a mistake. I don't know what came over me." I looked up and felt a wave of cold rage come over me. A mistake? Hitting the wrong key on the keyboard is a mistake. And when you order two rings that say, "Only you, forever," and you put one on me and give the other to your boyfriend, that's not a mistake. It's a calculated betrayal. No, I didn't intend it. It's all so weird. We just got close. I was confused. I thought our relationship was getting boring. He was giving me emotions. She broke down into tears. But I didn't think it would go this far. I gritted my teeth, stood up. "You thought I'd never find out, didn't you? What was the point of the engravings, anyway? Did you want to lie to me and him at the same time? Or what? I hate to think about you guys laughing behind my back." "No, we weren't laughing. I don't know. It's my fault. I'm sorry. I would do anything to keep you here. I stopped everything. Honestly, it was only a couple times. Well, maybe a little more." I snorted angrily. "I don't care if it was 10 times. That's it. It's over." "Eric, wait, please." She grabbed my arm. "You can't just ruin everything. We've been together for 8 years. I pulled my hand free. I didn't ruin all of this, Jessica. You did. I'm not going to listen to excuses and give you a second chance." I walked past her into the bedroom and pulled her suitcase out of the closet. I tossed it on the bed and started throwing her things in there with a sharp motion. She stood in the doorway, sobbing. "Don't do this. We'll talk. I'll fix this." But I was already adamant. My decision had a steel hoop around me. I would go on without her. I wasn't going to cry and beg. I didn't want to be hysterical. I just decided to kick her out of my life. It would be better than living in perpetual mistrust than knowing she was capable of such a thing. Tomorrow, after all, she could meet another coach and pull the same thing. After stuffing my stuff into the suitcase, I dragged it to the front door, opened the door, and dragged the suitcase outside. Out. I walked through to the living room, pulled out a couple more of her bags of stuff, and carried them out onto the porch as well. She followed me, crying and mumbling something about, "I didn't mean to, it was on impulse." I turned to face her, holding back my rage, but speaking almost calmly. "Your love is as cheap as your ring. For anyone you want to give it to, I don't need it. Good luck." Her eyes were full of tears, but I remained indifferent. Suddenly, she was on her knees. "Eric, I beg you, at least give me a chance to explain myself." Without a word, I went back into the house and slammed the door in her face. That was it. My hand trembled for a moment from how worked up I was, but I forced myself to inhale and exhale. Did it make me feel better? Partially. But at least I realized I'd made a point. And it was a point where I didn't look like a pathetic husband. I had thrown her out of my life myself, just as she had thrown out my faith in her devotion. A few months passed. They turned out to be quite challenging. Divorce and a lot of formalities. Jessica tried to get in touch, calling, writing tearful messages. I didn't respond. I lost a lot of weight during that time, but I gradually started to recover. It was hard to remember, but at the same time, I felt like I was starting to find myself again. I stayed to live in our house. Some neighbors apparently understood that something had happened, but I didn't go into details. I started spending more time at the gym. Strangely enough, it became an outlet for me. I chose a different fitness center away from where Chad worked. Working out helped me release my aggression, turn my anger into physical results. When the storm subsided, I noticed that I didn't have the energy to look at the ring Jessica had given me. One day I took it off and stared at the engraving for a few minutes. Only you, forever. Such a beautiful lie. I threw that ring in a box and put it away as if I'd slammed the lid on the past. About 6 months after the breakup, I met a girl. Her name was Rachel. I can't say we hit it off instantly, but I felt comfortable with her. We met at an IT conference where I was an invited expert, and she was a representative of the client company. At first, we just talked about work, but then we realized that we were interested in communicating. She smiled genuinely, and there was not a shadow of falseness in her gaze. After a while, we started dating, and I felt that next to her, my inner fear of I'll be cheated again was disappearing. Maybe I wasn't ready to jump headfirst into a new relationship yet, but I could feel it. This woman was different. One night, I told her in general terms what had happened with my ex-wife. I thought she'd be wary in some way, but Rachel just hugged me silently. In her embrace, I suddenly realized that I was starting to let go of the past. The pain I'd been holding onto was beginning to drain away, and I realized that life doesn't end with betrayal. Yes, I had learned a bitter lesson, but now I knew for sure that I deserved honesty. After a few more months, we already saw each other regularly, went to concerts, dined in cozy restaurants. I noticed that next to her I was laughing, talking about plans for the future. And at some point, I had a desire to wear the ring again, but not the one Jessica gave me, but a new one, a real ring for me. I didn't dare to buy it yet. I wanted to be sure of my feelings. But the thought that in the future I might trust someone enough to want to say, only you, forever, no longer seemed impossible. One evening I came home and caught myself thinking, today I don't remember the affair, I don't replay those scenes, I don't feel anger eating away at me. It means I've really let go of the situation. I threw out of the house all reminders of Jessica that had no practical value. The divorce trial was over, we settled the division of property, and I felt like I was stronger. At the cost of being stabbed in the back. My life had a new lease on life. Yes, I was left with a noticeable scar on my soul, but now I know, when trust is broken, there is no point in trying to build a relationship on the ruins. It's better to close one door and open another. Time heals. It also heals character when you don't let yourself become a wimp. I end up standing on the threshold of my and Rachel's plans together, holding in my head the idea of buying a new ring that will actually symbolize something real. And looking at myself in the mirror, I don't see myself as a victim, but as a man who was able to turn the tide. Because as much as it hurt, I didn't let my wife kick me out of my own life. I didn't become the boring doormat. She found an excuse to trade for thrills. I said no and closed the door behind her. There was no more room for self-pity in my thoughts. I let go of Jessica, her delusions of new emotions, and that symbolic, only you, forever, given to two people at the same time. Now that inscription brings me only a bitter chuckle and the realization that love is not engraving or loud vows. Love is action. And if someone says, only you, forever, and then cheats, all romance turns into a cheap fake overnight. So when people ask me how you're doing after your divorce, I answer honestly, I'm doing great. I am free from deception, free from the false loyalty that was shoved to me under the guise of a precious gift. Now I'm building my life from scratch. There's less illusion, but more sincerity. And one day I might buy a ring again, but a real one, without the lies they tried to tell me. Because I know the right man won't involve a third person in a story meant for two. Who knows, maybe one sunny day I'll get down on one knee in front of Rachel, hand her the velvet box, and quietly say, "Only you, forever." And there will be no second ring for another man. There will be one for the one and only. And so ends my story, filled with pain, anger, betrayal, and in the end, renewed hope. I wasn't waiting or looking for sympathy. I simply decided to be true to myself, breaking up a relationship that had destroyed respect and trust. And life itself threw me a chance to start over. And I took it, feeling that this time would be different. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.